Easter is a time when we remember that Jesus died for us and then he rose again so that we could be his friend forever. And so I'd love it if we could go on a journey through the story of Easter together this week and maybe use our imaginations so that we can feel a part of that story. Now, one very helpful way to remember things is to use our senses. So we're going to use a different one of the 5 senses each day to help us remember what Jesus did for us. Today I have a clue here as to what today's story might be. This is a bowl of water. Now, if you wanted to feel how cool this water was, which sense do you think you would use? Do you think you'd listen to it? No. I think you'd touch it. You'd have to touch the water in order to feel how cool and fresh it is. And we're going to use that sense of touch today as we think about the story of when Jesus washed his friends' feet. So I have got Derek the dinosaur with me here again today to help us have a think about that next part of the story. And so I wonder if we can start off by using our imaginations. And I'd like you to imagine that it's been a very hot day and it's also been a very long day and you've been wearing sandals on your feet and your feet are all dusty and all dirty and what's that, Derek? You think the feet would be a bit sweaty too? Okay, we're going to imagine our feet are all hot and stinky and sweaty as we listen to the first bit of today's story.
Jesus had loved his disciples during his time on earth, and he knew he would love them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the disciples were sitting round the table. Jesus knew that he was soon going to return to be with his Father. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet.
How do you think the water would have felt on their feet? What do you think, Derek? You think it would have been a bit ticklish, the water on your feet? It might have done. What about you? How do you think the water would have felt? Have a think, or maybe it could, if you're not sure, be one of the words on the screen right now. So it could have been cool, or comfortable, or uncomfortable, or soothing, or maybe hot, if your feet were a bit cold already.
Jesus dried their feet with the towel he had around him. When Jesus came to Peter, Peter said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You don't understand why I am washing your feet now, but someday you will."
How do you think the towel would have felt on their feet? Do you think it would have felt soft or scratchy? Maybe imagine that feeling now. Peter in the story, he didn't want Jesus to wash his feet. That's because Peter knew that Jesus was God and he thought that made Jesus too important to wash his feet. But what do we think happens next, Derek? Shall we hear the next bit and find out what Jesus has to say about that?
"No," Peter protested, "you will never ever wash my feet." Jesus replied, "Unless I wash you, you won't belong to me." Simon Peter exclaimed, "Then wash my hands and head as well, Lord, not just my feet."
It's really loving to go that extra mile for people. And Jesus wanted to do that here. He wanted to wash his friends' feet to show them how much he cared about them. How do you think, Derek, you would feel washing someone else's feet? You're not sure? It would depend on whether they were stinky feet or not. Yeah, it could not always be the most fun thing. But sometimes when things feel a bit of a bother to us, actually doing them is really showing God's love in action. And as we do that, we're being a bit more like Jesus.
Jesus said to them, "Since I, the Lord, have washed your feet, you should wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. And by loving each other in this way, you are showing God's love and will be blessed."
Jesus washed his friends' feet as a sign to them that he was going to wash away anything that they had done wrong on the cross when they say sorry. So perhaps next time you wash your hands and you touch the water, you can think about how Jesus loves us enough to go that extra mile and wash his friends' feet. Shall we say a prayer together now? Jesus, thank you that you forgive us when we say sorry to you. And thank you that you care for us enough to say that you'll wash our feet. Amen.